Good evening, listeners, brave navigators of the enigmatic and the concealed. Have you ever felt the pull of the unanswered, the allure of the mysteries that shroud our existence? For more than a decade, a unique comic publisher has dared to dive into these mysteries, unafraid of the secrets they might uncover. This audacious entity is Paranoid American. Welcome to the mystifying universe of the Paranoid American podcast.
Launched in the year 2012, Paranoid American has been on a mission to decipher the encrypted secrets of our world. From the unnerving enigma of MK Ultra mind control to the clandestine assemblies of secret societies. From the awe-inspiring frontiers of forbidden technology to the arcane patterns of occult symbols in our very own pop culture. They have committed to unveiling the concealed realities that lie just beneath the surface. Join us as we navigate these intricate landscapes, decoding the hidden scripts of our society and challenging the accepted perceptions of reality.
Folks, I've got a big problem on my hands. There's a company called Paranoid American making all these funny memes and comics. Now, I'm a fair guy. I believe in free speech, as long as it doesn't cross the line. And if these AI-generated memes dare to make fun of me, they're crossing the line.
This is your expedition into the realm of the extraordinary, the secret, the shrouded. Come with us as we sift through the world's grand mysteries, question the standardized narratives, and brave the cryptic labyrinth of the concealed truth. So strap yourselves in, broaden your horizons, and steel yourselves for a voyage into the enigmatic heart of the Paranoid American podcast, where each story, every image, every revelation brings us one step closer to the elusive truth.
Yeah, I'm down here. And today we're going to talk about dreams and dreaming and maybe even mastering your dreams. First yourself, because it seems like if you don't master your own dreams pretty soon, someone else is going to master them for you. So I would get a head start on it now. And today we've got Abbie J. I call her Dream Master J. She doesn't know that because it's the first time I've ever called her that, but from now on, she's going to be Dream Master J. So, first of all, welcome to the show, Abbie. You are a fellow Secret Society of Good Guys member, right? Like we've already done all the different initiations and everything. So we've got a good history. So this is a long overdue interview. So first of all, welcome to the show and tell people where to find you.
Well, thank you. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Abstract1. I spell abstract with 2 B's because my name is Abbie with 2 B's. So there, you can find me on Telegram and Project Cheney chat. And I am I'm a co-host of a podcast with Bootsy Greenwood. It is called Transurfing Safari. And always Secret Society of Good Guys. Are we supposed to do our handshake here? You know, the secret handshakes?
Do it under the table so no one sees it. Go with one. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. I'm assuming you did it right.
Yeah, I'm assuming you did too.
Okay. Yeah. Good call. Because I did. And I did. Yeah. So first of all, I started this out talking about dreams, but like I didn't even know when we first met and we were talking that was even like your thing originally. Like you already interesting in your own right. Before we get into the esoteric, can we start with the mundane? And the one right off the bat is that like you're a freaking bodybuilder, like a actual like competition bodybuilder, right? What's the backstory with all this?
I just I've always, I was military background just like you.
Hoorah.
So I've always kind of been into fitness, but then I had 5 kids and life got in the way and everything. And then I quit smoking and I kind of got fat and I was unhappy. And I just finally was at the point where I learned reality transurfing, and basically you can choose anything you want, including what you want to look like. And so I knew how I wanted to look. I wanted to look like a badass. So I went for it. I decided I was going to be a bodybuilder, and it's like, it hasn't even been 2 years, but I've transformed my entire body, and I've competed and qualified for a national show. I competed at a national show, and this year I'll be competing again at a national show to try to win my pro card. So I've expedited the process, but.
So after you conquer that, what's next? Like, what's the next reality transurfing expedition?
I don't know. I think to generate enough money where I don't have to work, which you can't do money. Money's like, because the whole thing is coordination of heart and mind, and your heart never understands money. It understands experiences. So traveling with my good guys and stuff, maybe. So
Well, I mean, but that takes money to do, right? So like,
right, but that would be the experience. So that would be the thing your heart could get behind. It's not the money part that it gets
like
behind.
when you want to talk about taking the dog out for a walk, but you can't say the word. So like you have to be like, oh, the WAL. Like you have to like
Yeah.
not say the word money in front of your heart, but like even though that's what you're really trying to get to, like, oh no, it's about
Yeah.
travel. It's about travel.
Yep. Having a suitcase and living in hotel rooms, that's gonna be what I.
So
What I
where did you start at where you were like, you know what, I can change anything, I can control my own reality? Did you read like a book? Did you see the movie The Secret and that sparked everything? I
Well,
give you more credit than that. I'd say that
yeah.
jokingly, but
No, oh, I know.
where did that
Well, I
start
think
from?
we all kind of saw The Secret and wanted it to work, but I don't feel like it ever worked. Like the whole idea
I
was
think
like,
the
"Oh,
Indians
this is
saw the
great."
boat. I'll die on that hill. The Indians saw the damn boat. Don't say that they
Yeah.
didn't.
And so but what it's missing, like, I actually was just kind of at a dark place in my life, just really depressed and stuff. So I started listening to a bunch of podcasts, or not podcasts. I was reading self-help books, and that just kept talking about meditation. And I was trying to meditate, and it was so hard to like sit there and close my eyes and not think about anything. I just couldn't do it. So I started like finding guided meditations on YouTube. And this one YouTuber kept talking about this book, Reality Transurfing. So I was like, what is this book? I feel like I need to read it. So I looked, and on Amazon, it was like $250. I was like, holy shit. Then I really wanted to get my hands on it, but I found a YouTube reading
Great
it, which
marketing
happened to be,
tactic.
yeah, Bootsy Greenwood was reading it. Um, so it's by Vadim Zeland. He's a Russian quantum physicist. So he does quantum physics, but then he's also like, now he's an author. He wrote Reality Transurfing, and that sort of just changed my life because it changed my paradigm more than anything. It just made me realize like I was always the person getting in my own way. And like when shit wouldn't go the way I wanted it to, it was always me. And it wasn't like fate. It wasn't like, oh, I just got the short end of the stick. It was really always me, the person getting in the way. And that the way to change it was so simple, and it didn't require you to meditate. It kind of ties into the whole meme magic idea because it's just picking one frame, and you just choose your reality based on this one frame. You just live that one moment in your mind, like a clear picture of it and what it feels like, and then you can walk into it, and that's all you have to do. So it was so simple that I just started doing it with little things like buying my house, you know, lot of things, a lot of little things, but it all added up to, wow, this really works. It's just like magic, but it's really kind of science-y. And it was what was missing from The Secret. Because The Secret, I think, emphasizes like importance and emotion and feeling it and all of that, which is fine. You do have to feel it because it's like coordination of heart and mind, but you don't have to work towards it. You literally just choose, and it's just a moment, and then you let it go. Because if you sit there and harp on it and like put importance on it, you always push it further away from you because nature always balances. So if I have too much importance, it's going to balance that out by not giving it to me.
My
It's
my
basically
takeaway
like
from The
natural law.
Secret is that like people only starve because they don't want the food enough. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much that was my
And
takeaway from it.
yeah, because desire is actually, but desire pushes shit away from you more than it brings it to you. It's like just choosing that it's your reality and that it can be yours, that it is yours, and then letting it go and letting reality do its thing. Like I'm not going to get in the way of it. It's just going to happen, and then it does. So that's basically what I did with my body.
What were some practical like first steps that you took? Like what were like the first like few really big steps on that journey?
The bodybuilding specifically, or like
I guess, or
the
anything else that was like a huge endeavor that ended up like that you use this technique where you find a frame and you focus on it.
okay. So I was like at a point in my life where I was rebuilding myself after a bad marriage where I was like economically abused. My credit was horrible and everything. And I wanted to buy a house. So I just knew it was probably better than renting, but I didn't think it was even possible. So, but after I learned transurfing, I was like, well, anything's possible, right? I just have to choose it. So I imagined my goal slide, which was a house, and I just pictured the house. Like I pictured the things that I wanted. So it's me doing a walkthrough of a house. I pictured beautiful floors, and then huge backyard with privacy fence. I pictured certain little elements, just not every detail, but enough detail that I could see it. And within 6 months, I bought a house with 0 down payment, and my credit was like very well repaired by that time. It just all kind of fell into place. It was perfect.
So if someone does that and it doesn't work out for them, is it like just pure chance, pure luck? Is there something that they did wrong that they might not know?
It's usually putting importance on it, or you're trying to control the chain of events. So there are ways that you can control the chain of events, like, which we've talked about previously, like the Patience of the Medici. But more often than not, when people teach you about like goals and stuff, like SMART goals, measurable, and break it up into chunks and stuff like that, that's the opposite of what you should do. You really just have to picture it enough, like picture it well enough, and you could add a little bit of emotion, but you're not going to do it over the top. Just do the sensory elements of it, and then you only make the first step, because I'm not going to sit here and wish for mail. Like, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I wish I could have the mail. I wish I could have the mail. And then never even take a first step out to the mailbox. So, but I'm also not going to like plan every little step out to the mailbox. I'm just going to take the first step, and then the rest falls into place. So it's the same thing with manifestation, for lack of a better word. You choose, and then you make a step. And there's no wrong step. Reality will fill in the rest.
Or I guess it's just actually making a real action.
Yeah. And if you put importance on anything, like the nature really does just balance itself. So, I mean, you see this with the water cycle. If there's excess amount of heat, then we have, evaporation or whatever, it goes up into the sky. And then when there's excess amount of moisture in the sky, it rains, but we see it with erosion, all of that. It's just a natural law that, anything, nature is always going to find balance. So it's with anything in life. Anything that I've ever held way too important, like, this is so important to me, this is so important to me, that's usually when shit hits the fan. So the idea is that you choose, you don't put any importance on it because it's already yours. I place the order at the drive-thru and it's going to come to me.
Or sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. Sometimes you like pull off to the side and wait, and then you just wait there like a jackass for like 15 minutes, and then it never actually.
Or they only bring half your order.
Yeah, that also can happen, and I guess that might be out of your control, and that's where like.
But don't you feel like it's always when you're trying to hurry and you don't want to check, so it's like you put a lot of importance on it anyway. Like, I'm hungry, I need to hurry.
Point,
yeah.
And that would be the best advice too. When like the worker finally shows up with the food and it's like not all there and it's late and it's cold, and you're just like, you get a little angry and like, hey, don't put so much importance on this, pal. You know what I mean? Just take it.
It's not a big deal, man.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
It's like
can you give like a really short version of the Patience of the Medici? Because I think it's a fascinating, and it would be like a 4-hour introduction, but like what's the like the not 4-hour introduction?
Okay, so the idea is the Russian dream hackers that we're going to talk about, they observed in the dream place John Dee. So they saw him in his library, or actually this guy was a librarian, so I think he saw John Dee in his own library, but he followed him to John Dee's library. And John Dee had a computer in his library, and in the computer, and this dream hacker learned that in dreams, when you can't read, because almost always words don't make sense or they keep scrambling when you're dreaming. So what they figured out is that if you ask the dream to read it aloud to you, any text, it'll read it aloud to you. So what they did is they used the memory palace concept, and they found in John Dee's library, I think on his computer, the page, this way of manipulating cards, a regular deck of cards called the Patience of the Medici. And they basically, with a deck of cards, with an intention, you fold the cards in a certain way. And when you get them to fold all the way correctly, it gives you a chain of events. And then you have to sit there and mark each event. You have to write down the events after the order of the cards. And then each card represents something. Like aces are an external event. Queens are personas, like which could be any living thing from an ant to the mailman. So each card represents something, each suit represents something, but you'll watch the chain unfold. And if you keep watching it and you observe it and you mark each card mentally as it happens, you always get your desired end result. It's insane, actually, when it happens, because you can watch the magic happen. You feel it. It's thick, and it's like, it's the most hardest thing to explain, because as it's happening, you're like, there's no way that me picking up this penny on the ground just now was related to me getting my wish. But it all is like, everything falls into place at the exact right moment, and then all of a sudden the impossible is possible, and whatever you're manifesting happens. And it might be a little bit weird, like where I learned it from. In the example, they did it to win a scratch lottery ticket. And the guy's hoping he's going to win a lot of money because he knows that this is magic. It's been verified by people that he trusts, and he does his first chain, and he goes and he gets a scratch ticket and he wins $5. So he doesn't win it big, but he won. It did work. So he was like, yes, I'm going to hit the jackpot. So, it might not be like as big as you think it's going to be, but it could be bigger than you think it's going to be. So it's pretty wild.
So yeah, so that's the deep end version. So there's a few specific concepts that I really think are interesting to walk back from that one. So you mentioned the memory palace, but you're also talking about in a dream and trying to read text. So I'm fairly new to lucid dreaming. Like, I've known what it has been for years. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, I remember one of my friends telling me, like, hey man, have you ever woken up in a dream, but like not woken up in real life, and you can like control what happens and like, you can fly around. And I just remember thinking, like, this kid's an idiot. It's called daydreaming. Yeah, I can do it. Like, I'm doing it right now. I'm thinking about flying, and I didn't realize that it was like this whole extra thing. And shout out to, oh God, I think it's luciddream.org. I'll put the link in the description just to make sure, but I think it's luciddream.org. But I had like a 2-hour consultation with them for free, to just give me an idea of like what it could all be about. And he gave me some really specific tips, and it like completely rocked my world, because I have had what I think are lucid dreams prior to all this, but it was just that I would like wake up and have to, get a drink of water, like heard something or whatever, and then go right back to sleep and just actively think like, man, go back to that dream you were just in, like go right back to this spot. And then sometimes it works, and it felt a little bit like magic, right? But then getting the tools, and in particular reality checks. So can you explain reality checks? Because I feel like I'm going to butcher it in front of Dream Master Jay.
Yeah, well, so reality checks. I learned lucid dreaming from reality transurfing, because it's one of the fundamentals to being a sorcerer if you're following like the Castaneda way, Carlos Castaneda. So a reality check, he tells you, and this is how my first lucid dream was, just from doing this 10 times a day. Just ask yourself, am I awake or am I dreaming? And he said, don't just answer the question, look around and make sure, or other lucid dreaming techniques are like, try to stick your finger through your hand, or there's a lot of different things that you can do. Just looking for your hands is a reality check sometimes, but they say you should do more than 2. But all I did was just ask myself if I was awake or dreaming, and I would look around and say, I'm awake. And if you do it about 10 times a day at random times of the day, after about a month, you will do it in a dream. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm dreaming right now. And then usually you're going to wake yourself up on your first dream because you're so excited. You can't level it off. And you'll wake up and like, wasted opportunity. But eventually,
Putting too much focus on it, right?
yeah, too much importance. Always.
So that's a great and another reality check that reminded me of to even bring that up is looking at text. That if you're out in the regular world and you see like a label on like a can or a product and you look away and then you look back at it again, it'll stay the same if you're in reality. But if you're in the dream world, whenever you see text and a few other things, but text the big one. Like if you're walking around, you see text on a building and you look down and you look back up, there's a good chance it'll change or it won't be legible. Like you'll know that it's like a word, but it won't be something that you can read. And that's where I guess this like dream hacking comes into play, where it's almost like it reminds me of how people kind of like hack chat GPT or like AI tools, where it's like you ask it a question and it tells you, oh, I can't possibly tell you that. Like I know, but I can't tell you. So then you just have to find the right way to get to it and it'll eventually tell you. And it's sort of like seeing, oh, okay, if I'm in a dream and I can't read the text, what if I just ask the dream to tell me what the text says? And then it won't change when I look up and down, but I still know I'm in a dream. I don't know. I find that so fascinating.
Well, and I did too, because I learned that from dream hacking, because I've always had the issue where, but see, I have this problem in reality. So this is why this is not a good reality check for me, because on my phone, I feel like I'll sit there and text something out and then I'll look down and it'll say like a series of 12 letters that I didn't even type, or maybe I did, but Siri is trying to listen to me right now.
So yeah, I guess with like autocorrect, maybe it can throw off your lucid dream. And that was another tangent that I don't want to forget about, is that I don't think that this is crazy when you talk about the patience of the Medicis and reading these cards, because there's this something I read in a Manly Palmer Hall. I think it was one of his magazine periodicals from like the 20s or 30s, but he made this amazing statement that I can't shake. And I feel like there's something so crucial to it, that every tool that we've got now for gambling, it used to be some sort of like a device for prophecy, from the roulette table to the playing cards to dice to dominoes to every single thing that you would go and find in Vegas. Well, almost everything, like in the casinos, all of those things used to be very sacred and for almost like the shaman, the medicine man, the scholars. And now it's just for anyone, and worse than for anyone, like it's been turned into like almost like a prostitution of these sacred devices, where now people look at a deck of playing cards and they're like, oh, that's what gamblers use. That's what people go and use to bet on money or play games with. But really, this is like a divination tool. And the reason I was even bringing this up is that one of the number one things that you're not supposed to do in Vegas is card counting. And it's so bad that like you'll get kicked out of casinos if they think you're doing it, which is so weird to me, because it's like, I'm not allowed to like have my own memories and then use my life experiences in the it's such a weird rule. But if you think about, if there's like an intent to take these tools of divination and prophecy and make them into like silly, fanciful, profane things that people use to get rich and like lose their lives over, then you don't want people card counting. But maybe it's because like this dream hacking, like this sounds like dream card counting, and who would want you to have access to being able to control and see kind of the script? So I'm out on a wild limb here, but maybe part of the reason that Vegas hates card counting so much is because they don't want you to do it in this reality, because if you do it in the dream reality, it might unlock something that you're not supposed to know about.
Well, and that's the fascinating thing about when you are lucid dreaming. The dream is constantly trying to put you back to sleep. So you could wake up in a dream and realize you're dreaming and then you're controlling it. But if it's so hard to control your focus and not fall back to sleep and think that, like you lose your consciousness. So what I always have to do, and some lucid dreamers make fun of this, but I don't really care, because it's a great tool. So Carlos Castaneda tells you, like, his way to wake up in a dream was to tell you to look for your hands. Just kind of have the intention to look for your hands in a dream, because you will always see your hands in a dream. You always are reaching for something, or, driving, or you're using your hands in some way.
What if you don't have hands in real life?
Well, then what do you use? Your feet?
Do you dream about hands?
Well, blind people dream. I knew a lady who was a blind lucid dreamer.
How would she know what her hands look like though?
She would know what they feel like. So I don't think she actually had visions when she dreamt, but she would
What
have
if you were
dreams.
blind and you had no hands? I pick
Alan
things
Keller?
apart. It's a bad habit.
No, I liked it. I liked when he did that on Secret Society of Good Guys. I thought it was really funny.
So you were saying Carlos Castaneda said that you can look for your hands in a dream, and that's one of the ways to somehow like stay in the dream without losing consciousness.
Well, it's really just a way to become lucid because you'll find your hands and then you'll realize you're dreaming. Because usually your hands will look weird, and it reminds me of the whole AI thing. Because like the first time I did it, my fingers were fused together right there. I was like, oh, weird, but it also anchors me now. So when I want to stay lucid and I want to experiment in the dream state, because some people are like, oh, I lucid dream all the time, but it's so boring. But there's endless potential there. So it shouldn't be boring. You have to have a kind of a running list of things you want to try. But
that's crazy to me to think that it's boring, because the second you realize you're in a dream, you can just be like, and I'm flying. Like I mean, I don't know. Like, how could that ever be boring that you're in a
flying is
dream?
so fun. It's the best feeling. I did have one where I got bored, but I did a lot of the Robert Wagner experiments, and I just don't think that
or what that means.
He wrote this book, I think, called Lucid Dreaming, and he had some experiments like ask for your soul tone, and then you'll hear like a sound. And I guess everyone he said that he asks always have this sound. Mine was like beep, it wasn't that exciting. He said to like go behind the dream. When I went behind the dream, I broke it, and then I was kicked out of lucid dreaming for a long time. Like I wasn't allowed to.
How exactly does that happen? Like, what does going behind the dream mean? Like, is this like Super Mario 3 where you crouch on the white block for 3 seconds and then you're behind the stage?
It would be cool if it was, but no, it was really the most sad and disappointing thing I've ever done. And I wish I wouldn't have done it because I feel like I pissed off the dream program. But I asked to see what was behind the dream. And what happened was I started free falling through what kind of felt like the sky. And then I just did the soft landing, and all there was blue light, and there was nothing. That's all there was. And I was just sitting there in this blue light, nothing. That was all. It was so
like falling through the stage in a 3D game.
Yeah, because basically what happens is, so when you're lucid, the dream has like 5 scripts. Like the dream characters, they're characters. They're like characters in a play. So you interact with them, but they have loops. So they have like certain things that they're allowed to say to you and to try to get you back on track, to get you dreaming or sleeping again, like unconsciously dreaming. But when that doesn't work and you ask a question that throws them off of their loop, like this would be like interacting with a Disney character, and they have their certain things that they're supposed to do at Disneyland. But if you say something random that's like out of whatever they have been programmed to, their programmed response, they can't improv. So you can ask a dream character, like, do you know who you are? And they usually do this. They go, and I had one whose eyes rolled up into his head, his face like crumpled like a aluminum can, and then he fell back and like was dead. It was the craziest thing. I killed a dream character because I asked if he knew who he was.
It was like a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Just like a Tim Burton movie. It was wild. So tip 1, don't ask your dream NPCs if they know who they are. Or is that a good thing? Yeah, do it because you have the potential to find actual dreamers in the dream realm. So that's the way you know. The answer is like, okay, because you could ask them, do you know that I'm dreaming right now? And they'll just look at you like, but if you ask them if they know who they are, that will tell you if it's a real person or not.
So you're saying that it's possible to be in a lucid dream and meet someone else that's also in a lucid dream, but it's a real person. Is there ever been an instance where like 2 people like looked each other up in the real world that met in the dream world and documented it? Or is it more like a woo-woo thing?
it sounds really woo-woo, but the dream hackers have done all of this. Started with Carlos Castaneda, but so they were a Russian group of, they were ITs. They all were actual like computer people, and they got hired by an outside source to look in and research everything dream related. So they got deep into everything that they could find, and really most of the literature that came on lucid dreaming, and some of the first literature ever on lucid dreaming, was from Carlos Castaneda. So they got deep into the Carlos Castaneda books, and they applied hacking to what Carlos Castaneda taught. So it was almost like streamlining what he had learned for years through a shaman. But and everybody thinks Carlos Castaneda is full of shit, but if you ever try his lucid dreaming stuff, it all works. And that's where I started with him. I started with the art of dreaming, and I'm convinced that it's all real.
Well, people
And
that claim that he was full of shit are mostly because some of the books were phrased as if he like actually went and met a real medicine man at this exact place, this exact time, which I think is kind of silly, just because the story's not about like where the car parked and what plot of land that they did this on. That's, I mean, I guess if that's
it's
the
all
part you focus on.
metaphysical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so weird to be like, that never happened. It's like, okay, man, we're talking about things that are happening in like a celestial dream realm. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird criticism. I've heard it. I've seen it. I think it's more about people that approach it as if Carlos Castaneda had some sort of documented insight with like a real medicine man and was trying to report on it as like an academic peer-reviewed thing. But that's not what it was. My
No,
opinion.
his first book was, and it was written as his dissertation. But
This is
after
Don Juan,
that,
right?
yeah. And after that, all of his books are almost like from his field notes and his memories, just memories that maybe came up later because he was in a state of heightened awareness. So anyway, the dream hackers, the Russians love Carlos Castaneda, all the Russian mystics. So even Vadim Zeland, the reality transurfing, it came from Carlos Castaneda's work. And through that, that's how I found the dream hackers. But really, I found the dream hackers wrote, one of the dream hackers wrote a 2-book series called Dream Searchers. And it's fiction, but it tells you that it's based on all real events, and the dream hackers are real. Dream hackers is the correct
Do
term.
they call
but when I
themselves dream
translated,
hackers?
yeah, they call themselves dream hackers. So the books are called Dream Searchers, though. So
Does it sound cooler in Russian, or do they call themselves dream hackers in English?
I think it's in English, like they're dream searchers, and in Russian it's dream hackers. I think it's when they translated the books to English, because they're not translated very well, but they're still awesome. They're very powerful. Lots of good concepts and magic in them, including the Patience of the Medici. It took me and a group of people who read the books together to figure it out, like how to fold the cards, because you won't find anything in English at all on how to do it. So but basically they applied the concepts taught there, and they used actual hacking techniques to kind of what's the word, like to cut time out of the process pretty much. But they learned that they have dream meetups, and I created a space with a group of friends that were also dreamers. They just weren't lucid dreamers, but we put conscious intention on creating a space, and we each chose like an item that would be at this space. And so I was the first one to lucid dream, the only one to lucid dream. And I had this space. I put all their stuff in it. It was ready to go, but nobody ever made it there to meet me.
Oh, it's like setting up for the party. Like no one ever shows up for the party. What's the delineation between a dreamer and a lucid dreamer? Is there an implication that you could be none of those? Like you're in like a third or a fourth category? Because I would assume everyone would fit into one of those two, no?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think that they don't dream, or they don't remember.
It just means you don't remember it, right?
Yeah, usually, or you blocked your dreaming off because of a traumatic experience. And so you can actually fix that. I helped a friend who's dreaming she stopped dreaming in like 1981 because she had this crazy nightmare. She remembered her last dream, but I did a shamanic dream reentry with her, and we went through and kind of healed what was happening there. We figured out why she had stopped her dreaming based on her last dream that she remembered, and she's able to dream now. She doesn't dream like she was, but she is dreaming. So
Was it without getting into personal details? Was it caused by a real life trauma or like a
yeah,
complete dream trauma?
it was real life trauma, and it was a real life trauma. But the dream, we had to go into it, and like she had this murky pond, and she was really afraid of it. So when I did this reentry with her, I was like, well, you got to reach into the water. And she was really afraid to do it. And I was like, okay, well then what would make you feel safe? Like gloves? She's like, if they go up to my armpits. So she imagined herself putting on gloves, and then she reaches in the water. And I expected her to pull out a piranha or something like that, or some kind of, and it was like some kind of weird 3-dimensional shape that had tentacles and everything. But when she pulled it out, it was associated with a memory. And so she remembered what had happened, because at the end of the dream, she had a mangled seal. So it was like this, she sealed off her dream, because the dream uses words in all their context. So if you see a seal, it could actually mean like a seal, like a stamp, or sealing the door off. So she had sealed the door off. So I knew I made her kind of tell me the dream before, and I wrote it down and took notes. And then I found words like that. Okay, this seal was at the end of the dream. She sealed it off. She sealed off her dreaming at that point. So we were able, but based on what we pulled out of the murky water, we were able to kind of go through and heal the memory, because I do Reiki and trauma healing for people too. So that was kind of, it was a 3-step process, but we did it, and it was pretty awesome.
Do you have any tips for remembering dreams for like people that, because there's been times too where personally, like I woke up and I remember that there was like something cool happening, but every second that I go by that I'm not remembering it, it just keeps going further and further away until it might have not have happened at all.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like one of those little sand hourglasses. And it's like, if you don't catch it, then the sand's not, you want to keep it in the middle somewhere. But the biggest tip is, before you go to bed, have the intention, like, I'm going to remember my dreams. So you start there, because that's how you can actually choose your dreams without even being lucid if you set an intention before you go to sleep. So if you have something you want to dream about, like, I got offered a job and I didn't know if I wanted it or not. I didn't know how I felt about switching, because I was pretty happy at my job. So I asked my dreams to give me insight. And that night I had a dream that they offered the job to somebody else and I didn't get it. And I was really upset. So I knew that my higher self wanted the job. So I took the job the next day. So you can set intentions like that, but you can do it also just to remember your dreams. So then when you wake up in the morning, if you don't remember right away, like if you don't remember at all right when you wake up, just say, something's going to happen today and I'm going to remember my dreams. And it might not be till 7:00 at night, but you'll have a conversation and somebody will say something random. You're like, oh, I remember my dream. Or you can write it down. You can write down, I will remember my dreams at some point today. And just writing that statement, it's intention. It's like,
To me, this is like true magic, and I don't consider myself more than 10% woo woo. Like I might get there on the right night. I might get to like 9% woo woo, but usually I stay very far away from it. But there's one thing that has always blown my mind, and I can't explain it other than just, our brains are way more complex than we give them credit for. But for the longest time, starting with when I was in the military, but like 10 years out, I could just, before I would go to sleep, I could say, you need to get up by 6 a.m. or you need to get up by 8 a.m. or you need to get up by whatever. And I'm not just saying like once in a while. It was like whenever I did that to myself, I would get up at like 5:59 a.m. Like the alarm wouldn't even go off. Like I would be awake in time to shut it off, which was also awesome because I think there's a difference between naturally waking up versus being woken up by an alarm. So like that's why I was like, man, this is so cool. Like it keeps happening. And I don't think I trained myself to do it. I think it's really just at some point the body, once it gets into a solid circadian rhythm, you can sort of tell it like, hey, same time, or like, hey, in this relative amount of time from now, do this thing. So when I started learning about memory techniques, one of those things about, I mean, I always get to the store and then I forget, what I was supposed to pick up, and unless I write it down, and then that doesn't work out for me either, because then I would like forget the list at home or whatever. You know what I mean?
Always, every
But,
time.
but yeah, exactly. And maybe it's like putting too much intent, right? Like putting too much
Yeah.
focus on it. But one of the things that it suggested was that just like as you think about the things you need, just sit down and imagine yourself like as you're pulling up to the store or as you're walking into the store. You're not there. You're like imagining yourself walking to the grocery store, and then just imagine yourself picking out all these different things. Or when you hear the ding, or when you get like touch, like feel the cart in your hands, all of a sudden you just see all the things that have to be in your cart. And if you can visualize that, and then you can just go to sleep and not even think about it again. And then when you actually get to the grocery store and you park and you hear that ding and you feel the cart, like all of a sudden, like your whole list just kind of pops up without you necessarily having to try to do it. Like I like what you're saying about you kind of set all the things up and then just take that first step and then just let everything else kind of flow into it. It sounds so woo woo, but like I personally have seen it work for decades.
It sounds woo, and then I have other people who are like, well, that just sounds like goal setting. And I'm like, but it's different.
It
I'm
is,
not
and it
sitting
does,
here like
but
writing down every single process. I'm literally just choosing the goal, and not even saying I wish or I want, because that's the big phrase is that I wish or I want implies you don't have it. So just
and
I
it also
intend.
implies that you're waiting for some external source to like deliver it to you.
Yeah. But if you think of reality like a mirror and you keep looking at the mirror, you go, I want to look different. I want to look different. What's going to happen? Nothing. But if you like intend to look different, then I can change the mirror, and all I have to do is, or what is reflected back to me. It's intent and making the first step.
I like that response too, where someone's just like, yeah, that's called goal setting. Or it's
Yeah.
another popular one, which I also kind of subscribe to here and there. But like when they talk about law of attraction, it's just like, yeah, it's called like like having like a clearly defined thing, as opposed to just a vague like feeling of I want to feel this way, as opposed to, but at that same time, like I really feel like this stuff works in a non woo woo way. But
Yeah.
it's not because of just intent, and it's the exact same way that when I was a kid and my friend was telling me about lucid dreaming, and I was like, "Yeah, it's called daydreaming, you idiot." Like, there's a difference. Like he's just like we're both describing similar things, but it's not the same thing. Like I was thinking about being like actually conscious and like not in a dream state, and he meant in a dream. But that's kind of that same response of like, yeah, goal setting. Well, it's not the same as goal setting, because goal setting could happen with you like memorizing and rote memory and writing it down and doing, like, even when you were mentioning that sometimes the best way to get to a step isn't to break it down into all these little chunks, which is a natural way that we've all been taught to like chunk things in. Sometimes that like you can get lost in the sauce doing that.
You can't. It's kind of like the metaphor. Have you heard the one where the three monks they're blind, and each one is feeling a different part of an elephant? Like one's at his tail, one's at his trunk, one's at the leg, one's at the ear,
I think it's
one
like
of
a
the legs.
tree
Like, this is
proverb.
like a tree stump. And, this is definitely a tree stump. And the other guy's holding onto the trunk, and he's like, oh no, this is a snake, man. Like, they're all feeling, none of them are wrong, but they're only getting a part of the picture. And that's how I see it, is that everybody thinks that when you start talking like this, that it's woo woo, but it really, it goes back to the whole, particle theory, like the particle versus waves or whatever, the observer effect. So it's what you observe and what you focus your attention on is what
Well,
you're
I think
going to
that's a big
see.
difference, because a lot of the like, I think there's a big propensity of the woo woo stuff. It's easily like regurgitatable. Like someone can say something woo woo that they experience themselves, so it's really profound and it really has that meaning. But then someone just likes the way it sounds, and they like, oh, like I can relate to that, and then they say it, but they didn't actually have the experience, and then someone else hears them say it, and it turns into this weird thing where like the saying it and relating to it almost takes the place of actually experiencing it. And I think that's where woo-woo goes wrong, where it's like a lot of it comes from some kind of a place of truth, but then people just regurgitate like what the person felt like, what they said they felt like as they were experiencing the truth, and they never repeat the truth part, just like the feeling of the truth part.
And that's why I liked reality transurfing, because I was like you. I was not woo at all. Like, I thought it was all bullshit, and it really, because of his quantum physics background, it was able to get into my subconscious and like, oh, this is plausible because he's talking to the science part of my brain.
That's also a logical fallacy, appeal to authority. Just throw that out there.
There you go. But it worked,
I mean, so where did you first come across dream hackers in particular? Was it mentioned in this book, or did you find like a weird Discord channel that was trying to sell you Bitcoin? Like, how did you get there?
So weird, because my very first podcast was with Bootsy Greenwood, and it was on lucid dreaming because I reached out to him. He was kicked out of the reality transurfing community after being like the voice of reality transurfing.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about that more in a second. Keep going.
Okay. So, because to me, he was kind of like a little celebrity. He had read the audiobook, put it on YouTube, and because of him, I was able to start changing my life. So when he got kicked out of this community, I finally reached out. I was like, hey, what happened? And so then we had a conversation, and then he invited me to be on his podcast, and we talked about lucid dreaming. And I forgot what the question was.
Well, yeah, I want to know how you got specifically into the Russian dream hackers out of all this.
Okay, so oddly enough, he wasn't a dreamer, but he said, "Oh, have you, read these fiction books called The Dream Searchers?" And I was like, "What? No, tell me more about it." So he did. I ordered the books, and my mind was blown, because even, reading the part about the patients of the Medici, it reminded me of a game of solitaire I was taught by my aunt when I was a kid, and it's not the same as a Medici solitaire or the patience or patient solitaire. It's not even close to the same, but I was able to kind of sort of figure it out, and I know I wanted to learn more, but there was all these other concepts in the book that were just like, they were just mind blowing. So yeah, he recommended these books, and that's where I found them. And then through Bootsy, we started a dream coven, is what he called it, and a dream coven experiment where we got several people.
You guys are going straight to hell. Sorry, I just have to break it to you. You're going. You guys are going to burn for eternity. I hope it's worth it. But go ahead.
I'd rather be hot than cold. So we invited this, group of people, and we all, hacked the dream hacker stuff, the dream searcher stuff. And in the process, I met a friend who is from Germany, but he's Lithuanian. And so he's like, hey, have you ever heard of, this book? I think it's by M. Fortune, but it's all in Lithuanian, and Google Translate doesn't want to translate in America from Lithuanian. So I couldn't translate it. I got a PDF copy of this book. But he took the time and he started translating it for me. And so he shared it with me. And because the dream searchers are based on actual people who are dreamers. Like, have you ever seen the OA?
I haven't. I might try it again. I mean, I tried to, and I couldn't get. I was like, it was like so much third party cringe as I was watching it. I just felt embarrassment for. I don't know. Maybe it was just me and the mood I was in when I first watched it. There's a good meme. I just have to throw out there. There's a really good clip where like it shows them like dancing or something in like a cafeteria, and it's just like a 10-second clip, and then someone wrote, like, I take it back. I want them all to die now. And that's kind of how I felt as I was watching this. Just like, I don't care what your story is. Just let them take these people out with their TikTok dance. I'm sure there's something like cool to that scene, but I'll rewatch it.
What's cool about it is that it is all based on the dream hackers. It's based on, nobody knows this. Everybody who's popular, mainstream people who've watched this don't know what I know. I watched this show before everybody else, and I started freaking out, like, because they were doing the motions that they're doing and stuff. They're actually doing Carlos Castaneda concepts, which is called,
Really?
yeah, he calls it tensegrity, but it's, but Don Juan called it, what does he call him? I can't think of the word, but these movements are important, and they've been around since the Toltec time and stuff. So I'm not saying that they're doing the exact right movements, but that's what it's conceptualizing. And the reason why I know is that time isn't linear. Everything is related. The dream space, you can do anything. You have unlimited possibilities, and you can change everything in this reality from that side.
I feel like I would be really disappointed if I like got into the back of the Dream Wizard of Oz station and everyone was like doing flash mobs. I just think I'm never dreaming again. You guys can have this crap.
It's really because you have these dormant, like the chakra system and stuff in your body, and everybody thinks that's woo-woo, but that's science-based too. Those are like bundles of nerves in your body, and they bundle up in certain areas, and they're energies like focal points. So you have these dormant areas all over your body that we don't use anymore, like between your fingers and stuff. So you have stored up energy in these places, and so when you do like certain moves, like you're activating, and they do like stuff where they flick and they do like weird stuff, and everything's like with really stiff tendons and everything. But doing all these moves, they actually free up energy, and they help you stir up your intent so you can be more magic, So
in school, did anyone ever do this one to you where you look, one person puts their hand this way and the other person
the vagina hand.
I mean, is that not a way of using the otherwise dormant energy in the body?
You are, because who does anything with the webbing of their fingers there,
Well, that's the last time I can think of it was doing like when you got a little peek. Yeah.
Got a little peek. So they're doing that. That's what that is. They're doing tensegrity. That they're called power. I forget what it is, but between that and then they're sitting there whispering. There's this part where they're recording people's dreams. These people are getting paid to go into this warehouse and sleep in a bed. And then they sit there and they wake up and they whisper into these little machines. They recall their dreams, and then they go home, and they're getting paid to do this. Well, this is all real. This all really happened. It happened in Russia. These dream searchers, when they were hired to do all this dream research, that was part of what they did. They opened up several locations, and they paid people to come in and tell their dreams. So the OA is all Castaneda and dream hacker stuff. The people who wrote that they know what's up. So there's a lot more truth to it than anybody even knows.
What about Inception? Do you have any thoughts on that movie?
Yeah, because you can literally show up in other people's dream space. They can show up in yours. And I've had commercials in my dreams. So it's already being incepted.
What was the commercial for?
I don't know. I was so mad because I was pissed because I knew it was foreign. It wasn't supposed to be there. And so I was yelling at the dream because I was lucid dreaming. And so then I started it was on the television screen. So I started hitting the television screen because it wouldn't stop. I was like, stop. I was telling the dream to stop because, it's my dream. It wouldn't stop. And so then I started punching the TV, and the dream got like upset. It was like, it said ow or something. It was like, dude, it's not my fault. Like, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like,
you heard the TV and it said ow.
Yeah, it did. And it said, it was basically like, it was upset because I was, hitting it, but I was upset because I don't need advertisements in my dream. That's my space,
Well, not my space. That belongs to Tom.
Yeah, it does.
So when I opened this up, I was not kidding around when I said like it's better for us to have control over our own dreams because someone else will take control of it for us. And part of that is because of this site that I came across recently. So I saw someone posting about it on Twitter. It's probably vaporware, but it might also not be. And even Dream Master Jay here was like, this is totally something that I would buy. So what it's being pitched as, and I'm not endorsing this, by the way, this is more of a curiosity.
Neither
called
am
the
I.
Halo. They call and don't buy this. And if you do buy it, wait at least until I get an affiliate code first, and then you can buy it, and then I'll endorse it.
For real.
But it says it's a non-invasive neural device to stabilize and induce lucid dreaming. The most advanced neurotechnology wearable crafted to facilitate exploration of the unconscious mind. This wearable leverages state-of-the-art neurostimulation system, replicating the neuroactivation patterns typical of natural lucid dreaming. Now, I'll summarize this because I actually went and I read through, like, okay, I get all the buzzwords. What's it actually doing? So what it's doing is, and I'm going to oversimplify this and get most of it wrong. 99% of this is going to be wrong, but 1% is going to be slightly accurate. And it basically, they've patterned what brainwaves and what sort of responses and frequencies people respond to while they're lucid dreaming. And they pass that through AI. So now AI has done all the pattern matching of, like, here's what a successful lucid dreamer does and how their body reacts while they're in this lucid dreaming state. And then they put that into a device, and then they have the device try and maybe replicate some of those things that the lucid dreamer is going through. So, for example, if the lucid dreamer's like pulse, I'm just, again, oversimplification, I'm just making crap up as I go here, but if like your certain pulse or your heart rate or the skin elasticity or the moisture content, these are all things that we measure when someone's doing like a truth detection sort of thing, like analysis. All these things that they analyze called biofeedback, I believe. And if you can take the biofeedback and like almost subconsciously apply it so that you've got like a feedback loop unconscious, right? It shows like a person here dreaming. So when you're asleep, maybe they can, I don't know, like do like a little haptic feedback or like tiny little shocks that you don't feel but you perceive, that will replicate the same sort of motions that someone that lucid dreaming is going through. That's how I understand this. There's a bunch of different stuff in here, but where my mind immediately went to is like, yeah, this is being pitched as take control over your own dreams. But also, what if someone just like kidnaps you and straps you down and puts this thing on your head without you wanting it to be there, and they just start like, you know, sending someone going through Freddy Krueger nightmares and patterning that on top of you, where you don't get to opt into this thing. So I feel like, man, we're in a scary place where this is right around the corner.
It's scary because, you know, the dream space is so, I think it's where creation starts. I think everything is created on that end of reality because it's also real. And people don't think that. They're like, oh, it's just a dream. But it's not just a dream, because think of any memory from your childhood, you know, any memory, and tell me that it's as clear when you recall it as a dream. Like when you're experiencing a dream, it's not like a memory. It's an actual place, and you actually have sensory experiences, and you're actually seeing things. You're not recalling them like a memory. Memories are never as clear as an actual dream. So this is an actual place that you're experiencing. So if it is an actual space and it's endless potential, I mean, how many genius breakthroughs, almost every single one, came from a dream?
Almost
Like,
all the ones that I can think of, the double-stranded helix is one of my favorite examples. Either a dream or LSD or potato.
yeah, because they all have access to the dream space. It's not necessarily, you don't have to be a dreamer to access it. In reality transurfing, he calls it the space of variations, or the alternatives space, because it's where every past, present, or future and every possibility in between exists. So anything that you want on this side of reality, you just have to, you know, kind of highlight the sector of the dream space and pull it into reality by choosing it. So that's really the biggest concept of it. And it does sound woo-woo, but when you really start to think about it, almost every scientific breakthrough, or in art or music or whatever, it's all, your musings all come from the dream space. Even if you're just daydreaming.
How realistic do you think it is in Inception, where they extract like a password out of somebody's dream? Like, do you think you could get that specific to like find out what your bank PIN code is?
Yeah, the dream hackers. Yeah, I've actually had dreams where I woke up feeling kind of freaked out because I know I gave information and I don't know who I gave it to. So the dream hackers actually were after they did all this research and were hired by this private industry, they realized the potential for all of this because they started applying it to their own lives. And then they were wanted by every, 3-letter society there was, KGB, CIA, whatever. And they do work with the Americans sometimes, but it's usually like, they usually owe each other favors is what it is. So, but a lot of them have been arrested and spent a lot of time in jail. They've also broken each other out of jail because you can actually physically move your body. It's very difficult to do, but they know how to do it. So yeah, Inception is a thing.
What do you
They've
mean
done it a
physically
lot.
move your body? Like another person's body?
No, you can move your own body through the dream state. Like, so they've actually, like the example that they give in the book is that one of their people got arrested, and this has happened to them on many occasions. They'll get arrested because they're doing some crazy stuff. And it's not just the, KGB and stuff like that. It's like what they call the Legionnaires. So I'm pretty sure whether it's the Legionnaires or the Cabal, whatever you want to call it, this is high magic. People want it. They want the abilities that the dream hackers have. And so they've had to like go and physically in the dream state find one of their people in the dream state, and then they pull them back. They can't bring their clothes, and they always have to put them in a really cold bathtub, like cold water, and it takes a huge physical toll on a person's body. But you can
Are we talking about like
relocate.
teleportation?
Yeah, they can actually open portals and shit. It sounds so out there until you start really like looking at the potentials of it all. And what I shared that book with you. You'll just have to start looking at it. It's kind of wild. They put it all on forums. So the dream hackers stuff is in this book that was in Lithuanian, but it's all on internet forums because they've been teaching dreaming since the 90s, since this group, the core group, started doing this. Now there's other factions of the group, but they teach all of it.
At what point do you think like corporates, like corporate espionage and things like start occurring, or do you think it's already been happening? Because that's kind of the premise of Inception, right? Is that at a certain level, it's like corporate. It's not just people guessing Abbie's password. They're trying to figure out like the guy that runs Walmart's password.
Since the 90s, because that's what this team was hired to do. More or less.
Is this Matrix 2? Because I get the feeling of whenever one of them would do something in the simulation, and then all of a sudden all the NPCs are like noticing them and get like aggressive with them. Is that kind of what we're talking about in like the lucid dream state? Is when like the dream people know that you know?
Yeah, and they do. Like, because if next time you have a lucid dream, you said you think you've lucid dreamed now, right? Or
I know for a fact that I have a handful of times now. After like actively trying to do it and doing all, and the biggest one was like you were saying, right before you go to sleep, you just constantly say to yourself for at least 5 to 10 minutes, you're just like, there's going to be a lucid dream tonight. You're going to remember everything. I don't ever think about what it's going to be about, just that there will be one and that you will remember it. And it seems to work. And then the other big tip was that the second you wake up and gain consciousness, don't get up, don't move, don't do anything. Just sit there and try and remember every little detail you can. And the more I started doing that, the more I experienced it. Now, it went away entirely because I don't know why, and I haven't tried to like flex that muscle again, but I know that I can.
Chantilly's principle, like it's the idea that you basically have pushed up against this glass ceiling so hard that it's trying to restructure itself and kick you out, which is what I did. I actually lost lucid dreaming for almost a year because I went behind the dream and I broke the system. I didn't know what to do with me. So I was like, no, privilege revoked. So.
You think you're still dreaming, you just don't remember, or you were dreaming, you just weren't able to lucid dream?
Yeah, I was still dreaming. I just wasn't lucid dreaming. And it felt like a punch to my gut because I was doing all this crazy stuff. Like I literally found my physical body. This is one of the gates of dreaming in the Carlos Castaneda series, is to find your body, your physical, because your dream body is different, which is kind of ties into the whole dream paralysis stuff too. Because I think that
Rosicrucianism too.
Okay. But I think the dream paralysis demon might be your dream body. It's just not very perfected, because Don Juan says the whole point of dreaming is to find and perfect your energy body. So you're initially, when you first start lucid dreaming, you just found your dreaming body, but it's not perfect yet. And you see that when your fingers are fused together. And I started noticing it because I'll have lucid dreams where I'm blind, and I have to like consciously tell a dream, no, I'm going to see. And then I can see, but I might only be able to see for like a foot in front of my hand. But one of the things that you're supposed to do is find your physical body with your dreaming body. And it sounds so wild, and I never really know ahead of time what I'm going to do in a lucid dream. I just kind of have this whole, oh, I could try that. Oh, I could try that. So I have this whole mental list. And then all of a sudden I'm there and I'm doing one of the things. And so this one night I was like, find your body, find your body. So I go and I felt myself in my bedroom. I grabbed my shoulders with both hands and I couldn't see. My energy body was blind, but I could feel my physical body. And I sat there and I shook myself like this, and I could feel myself shaking myself, and I could feel myself on the bed also doing shaking. It was so weird because I felt myself in both places at the same exact time. And I did it. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't think you're supposed to try to wake your body up. So that part I did wrong, but it was really freaking awesome. Like, and then I'm telling people about it, and I feel like everybody was haters, and they were like, "Oh, well, that's cool."
Yeah,
Like,
they're like,
that
look at
was
this chick
fucking
humble
awesome.
bragging.
Yeah.
Do you think
It
you
was
can
like,
die in a dream and have it be like bad, or do you just wake up? Like, is there a version where something can like permanently damage you because of something that happens in the dream world?
yeah. I mean, I've died in dreams. It's not a big deal. Like, except I was pissed. Every time I've died in a dream, I'm pretty pissed off. But there are, it's not without risk. And that's what people don't tell you. Carlos Castaneda did, and the dream hackers tell you it's not without risk, because you can literally go to other realms, other planets. You can wake up in another reality. It's like it's the space of variation. So you can end up in another reality tunnel and not wake up as Thomas anymore. You can wake up as, I don't know, potentially anyone in another
I mean, as long as
world
they're
where
living their
there's
best
ant
life.
people. Yeah, you know. But yeah, the whole idea is that, I mean, you can die there. You might not ever come back to your physical body. I think sometimes that's why people are like catatonic. They're lost in another world.
Have you ever used supplements for lucid dreaming? Because I know there's like a list of different
Yeah.
ones, and this gets into like total pseudoscience, but some's real science.
There's this one called Clary Dream, and it was kind of expensive, and I didn't like it because what it does is there's the wake induced lucid dreaming technique where you wake up at a certain time and you get up for about 20 minutes. So like you get up, go to the bathroom, put your dog out, whatever you got to do, but then you go and lay back down with the intention, like you were saying, with the intention to go back into a lucid, or to go into a lucid dream, and it works really well. But this Clary dream, you would take at that time and then go lay back down. But I didn't like it because it keeps you very much on the edge. Like you're very wired almost to where you're sleeping, but you are very, very, very lightly sleeping. But it worked. Okay. But 5-HTP, and I happened to have it, but I had somebody recommend it in a clubhouse room. And he had said, take 200 milligrams of 5-HTP every night, and it will, help you to lucid dream. Shoot, I should buy some of that.
I think
Reminder.
that's a great idea, actually, because my understanding, and I'm not a doctor yet because I haven't put myself through the reality transurfing to become a doctor. But
You're close enough.
as I understand, 5-HTP isn't necessarily like a drug. Like, it doesn't affect you directly. It just makes 5-HTP bioavailable to your system because it's constantly using it to produce all sorts of things. And just that there's an abundance of it in your system means that your body has to like go searching, or it doesn't have to go to the factory and work as hard in order to produce these like building blocks. That's my my bumpkin understanding.
Yeah, and I will recommend it any day. Like, everybody everybody who has sleep issues takes melatonin, and I never recommend that because that is actually supplementing a hormone, and then your body stops making the hormone. So it's counteractive. So it's actually compounding your problem. But if you take 5-HTP, it actually helps boost the serotonin levels in your brain, which sounds also counteractive, but it's not. It actually helps balance everything, and it helps you to sleep. And you can go into like a good sleep. You wake up really giddy too, like just happy. So it's like a happy supplement. It's good. It's a win-win because it does, after about 2 weeks, you start lucid dreaming.
What are the laws on? We need to just come up with our own 5-HTP. Like it's a pretty basic fundamental. You throw a cool little packaging on there, a little lucid dreaming pamphlet. You're in business.
You shouldn't throw that out there. We should be talking about this in the back channel.
Oh, I mean, we're pre-recording this. I can just remove it.
Okay. Well, either way. Or if somebody wants to do it, fine.
No, you better not. We will come after you in the dream world, and Dream Master Jay don't fuck around in the dream world.
That's what's up. You watch out.
So I want to segment into our next little transition here. I already told you what it's about, so I'm just going to play it.
Hey, conspiracy buffs, I double dare you to take some PCP, the Paranormal Conspiracy Probe. On your marks, get set, and go!
All right, 0 to 10. Do you believe in dinosaurs?
3.
How about fire-breathing, flying dragons? Having ever existed?
I'm going to go with 10.
How about Bigfoot?
5.
Mothman?
7.
Dogman?
Because I want to believe it. Honestly, I'm not familiar with Dogman except the children's books, so I'm going to go with 1.
That's fine. What about the Loch Ness Monster?
10.
What about fairies? Like Tinkerbell style little flying humanoid fairies?
Little humanoids, or like, were we talking about like the Fae where they could be big and, all different forms?
Actually, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I want to say little ones first. Let's focus on the Tinkerbell style fairies first.
I think I
Or
saw
Labyrinth.
one once, so I'm gonna go with 9 because I swear I saw one.
What about
I believe in fairies.
What about like Nephilim style giants?
10. I even believe in titans.
What do you think? 0 to 10 that we buried Osama bin Laden at sea out of respect for his culture.
0.
Where you at on Timothy McVeigh was the lone wolf at Oklahoma City?
0.
How about a human being has ever stepped foot on the moon in all of human history?
0.
Is there a moon in space at all? 0 to 10.
Oh, that's hard. There's something, so I'll say 10. There's something.
Is this a flat Earth?
5.
Okay,
Because
so
I don't think it's either one. It's a possibility, but I don't think that we'll ever know. And I think that really the real reality is this is all just a simulation. We're in a video game, y'all.
What about demons? 0 to 10. And I don't mean like a weird woo-woo, like I'm thinking negative thoughts and negatively. No, I mean like there's a freaking evil entity energy that you can tap into and it can, inhabit things.
10, only because I've didn't believe in it forever, and then I experienced it and it was scary as shit. So yes, 10.
What about angels?
I think if you believe in one polarity, you have to believe in the other. So I'm going to go with 10.
So then does that also imply heaven and hell?
I don't think so. I really think those are constructs.
But what makes heaven and hell a construct, but demons and angels not constructs?
Because I think that this is, again, it's a simulation. So, so the idea that I just don't think so. I think that that's part of the game and part of the rules of the game and part of what we're supposed to believe is part of the game. I see this as a game. Extraterrestrials, I'll
The
go 7.
little gray aliens in particular with like the big eyes, like very specifically those dudes.
I don't necessarily think they're from outer space, but I'll say 7.
What about the Arctic Wall? Do you think there's something beyond the Arctic Wall?
10.
All right, let's walk back some of these. So I want to know, first of all, this is a crazy continuation, but people that don't believe in dinosaurs do believe in dragons without fail. So I want to understand what your thinking is behind giving. I think you gave dinosaurs like a 3 and dragons a 10. So why did dinosaurs get a 3 and dragons a 10?
Because I've noticed that with mythology in general, almost every myth comes from something that was real. So, I mean, we've seen this repeated over and over in almost every culture. So, a myth usually comes from a real story. So, were they gigantic fire breathing dragons? I don't know. But I do believe that they had to come from somewhere. So, I do think that they were real. Dinosaurs, on the other hand, the problem I have with it is that everything you see in the museum isn't real. So why would I believe it? They're all, reconstituted. They're all casted and molded. It's not real. So to me, until I see them pull one out of the ground, the whole thing, I don't believe it.
0 to 10, the Bible.
You gotta get me here. It's a book about a bunch of men, written by a bunch of men.
It's
So
history, not her story. Shout
well,
it.
damn it. I'm gonna say it 5. I think a lot of it is still mythology.
I feel like you might be hedging your bets a little bit there on the 5. That's okay.
I know. I'm not really sure I even feel that really,
Well,
but
I want to ask, what about talking snakes? Because there's so much mythology about snakes talking, do you think that was a reality at some point, or is that just a construct?
the whole basilisk and the parcel tongue and parcel mouth, all of it, like, yeah, there's a lot of mythology around that. So I think possibly maybe the dragons were the ones that were speaking. What if it just has to do with reptilian people?
Touche. Maybe the dragons are the talking snakes and it's all one and
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll cede that.
Well, because if you think of like the Garden of Eden too, when God punished the snake, he said, "You'll slither on your belly." So what did it do before? Maybe it was a dragon.
It was flying around. Maybe had little feet, like a little centipede. That would be kind of crazy. Like a snake with thousands of feet and little toes.
Like Falcor or something with a bunch of feet. Yeah.
Maybe all snakes used to be like Falcor and they screwed it up for themselves because they gave some chick an apple and she ate it.
That's what I think.
Where are you at on Christianity as a whole? Do you think Christ was a real living flesh inhabited person? Or is that a construct?
Whether he was or not, he's become a big enough pendulum or egregore that the energy around it is definitely real. And I think it's all good. Everything that Christ said was good. So Christianity as a whole it's messed up. And I can say this as a person who's like sat there and used to read her Bible every single day. And I was so wrapped up in it. But once I got freed from religion, I feel like you're missing a lot of the points by getting wrapped up in the Bible. So it comes down to relationship with the creator. And sometimes you just need to look at yourself as part of the creator. You're a fractal of it. So it's not external. Christ was always saying, "I am, my Father are one." He's saying, "I am," and "I am" to you should mean the same thing. So
That's a fair point. I think the Bible's okay. It's not that great because if it was, they would have written a third in the series, but they stopped after 2. And usually that means that the book's not that great if they stop only after the first 2.
I feel you on that. That's a good point.
What about Lucifer? Is Lucifer a good guy or a bad guy?
Well, kind of like the whole law of one thing. because if God created Lucifer and he's all knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, all of that, then he serves God, whether or not even the demons, it all serves the one. So, negative polarities are always catalyst for growth one way or another.
Is this you defending Jeffrey Epstein? Is he just a catalyst for growth? Does he have to be the low so that someone else can be the high?
Does it even exist?
Is the
Or is that all
JFK
bullshit too?
assassination a particle or a wave?
That's what I'm saying. You get it.
So where else? Bigfoot. You said Bigfoot, I think, was like a 10. No? Or am I getting that
No,
wrong?
not 10. I don't remember what I said, but I didn't say 10, but
it was higher than Dogman.
Yeah. I think that it's plausible. I mean, they just see it in enough places. And in my head, the science part of my brain is saying, I think that these are failed human experiments, possibly. I think that they've been manipulating genetics and DNA for a long time. We know this when we see like ligers and mules and stuff. So why couldn't we have a species that was maybe part human, part ape, and they just released it into the wild and it can't really reproduce because it probably has ultra low sperm count. So in my head, so I just feel like it's definitely plausible.
And shout out to Russian scientist Ilya Ivanovich, who claimed to have created the humanzee, which was a cross between, arguably, despite the name, I think it was either a gorilla or even an orangutan, I believe, that he was trying to breed with people to create Russian super soldiers. So,
wow.
Maybe that's part of it. What about ghosts?
Yeah. I see ghosts as totally different. Like, I don't see them as what we think they are. I just think that time's not linear. It's layered. So everything that happened in this house right here, right now, like that's currently happening, all the past and present is here too. So sometimes I think you can kind of peek between the layers. So I don't think that you're being haunted or anything like that. Just maybe somebody has really dense energy and they're in their timeline and you're in your timeline, but it's very evident sometimes overlapping. I don't think time isn't a line like we think.
Do you think money can be interdimensional? Like if money represents energy and potential energy and focus and everything, like is that an interdimensional thing? Like could we ever spend money interdimensionally, do you think?
That's above my pay grade. That's some deep thinking. What do you think?
I mean, it feels like the Russian hackers could ask John Dee's computer this question.
They probably could. You could probably ask any computer that question though in the dream space.
I wouldn't trust any computer other than John Dee's.
We just want John Dee's, yeah.
Do we know what kind of computer he has? Was it like a compact? Was it like a gateway? Was it an Apple IIgs? Did he play Oregon Trail on it? Can it run Doom?
I'll have to get back on you. Or I'll see. I'll find the details and I'll see.
Because a computer could be an abacus, but I want to imagine that he's running like a brand new rig that could handle Call of Duty 4 with all the settings turned up.
Well, probably not Call of Duty 4 because I'm thinking like this was in the 1990s. So if it happened in the 90s, we would be looking.
Okay, well, he could have played Wolfenstein.
Yeah, exactly. Wolfenstein, or what is it? But also,
if it's non-linear, and if he had access to a computer in the 90s, wouldn't that go to say that he probably has an iPad by now at least?
Oh, for sure, he's got to, because if it's your dream space and you're seeing him there, then you could probably create that.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good question. Did any of them see the real John Dee, or is this just like their dream version of a John Dee, and they're extracting knowledge from it a la Akashic Records without actually going into John Dee's real library?
Well, that's a really good question, but John Dee's library, since it existed here, would exist there. So whether it's their own fabricated version of it or if it's the actual library, I guess it wouldn't really matter. What matters is that the information was there.
Do you think you could develop like a romantic relationship with John Dee in the dream world?
Me personally, no, because he
Well,
don't.
not you personally, but if
It's
just
like he
anyone out
doesn't do
there.
it for me. You can with any dream character, probably. I mean, because look, when you first start lucid dreaming, that's usually where your mind goes. At least it did for me. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I was like, oh, dream sex.
Who was on the list? Who were the first 3 visits when you were flying around lucid dreaming?
It was randoms.
Yeah,
It
okay.
wasn't like that. It was just, random dream characters. And then I was
Sliding
like,
into
okay, wait, is
the
that kind of
dream
rapey?
DMs.
Like if I'm making them have sex with me? So maybe we shouldn't do that.
Is that like an egregious power imbalance that if you're powerful in the dream realm and you're forcing yourself on these dream NPCs, is that problematic in 2024?
I think it can be. I mean, if they're just dream NPCs, I guess you don't
Maybe,
have to
but
see it
isn't
that
that
way.
sort of like a boss worker relationship or like a teacher student relationship? Like some things are off limits if there's a inherent power imbalance. And I feel like if you're a dream warrior and you're interacting with your dream NPCs, there's a power imbalance there. That's not cool in 2024.
Yeah, well, especially, if it's not consensual.
Do they have could it be a non-consent? I guess your NPC turned you down. That would be a big blow to your ego. That if you're like lucid dreaming and you're like, let's go bang, and they're just like, you're not my type. Like, what the hell? This is my dream, and you're turning me down.
Well, because that's the thing is that you're not all powerful in the dream space. There are things that are off limits. You can try to do, you can experiment as much as you want. You can have all these ideas of what you want to do or how you want the dream to change, but it's not always going to reflect exactly what you want.
Are we talking like a monkey paw scenario, or like
Yeah,
you make
sometimes
the
it is.
wish and the genie's like ha ha ha, and they like you get $1 million, but I stole it from this orphanage. Now all the children die. Here's your $1 million.
Well, because the dream hackers tell you to reach out to them in the dream space. So if you want to meet with them and you want to learn from them, then that's how you find them. So I was having this lucid dream and it was like a 7-part lucid dream. I'd wake up and then I'd go back to sleep and I'd be lucid dreaming. And it was the whole night. It was really awesome. But at one point I asked to meet one of the dream hackers and I called him by name. I forget though that he's one who is dead now. So I asked to meet him and it said, some things are just fiction. That's what dream told me.
Did that just like come out of the air, like the voice of God?
Yeah. It would be what I would perceive to be the dreaming emissary. That's what Carlos Castaneda calls it. Like there's all these, what he calls inorganic beings. They are real beings. They have consciousness, but they don't have a body. So they're inorganic. And that's who inhabits the dream space. But he calls one in particular the dreaming emissary, and the dreaming emissary will teach you dreaming. But I've pissed the dreaming emissary off, so it doesn't talk to me very often.
Can you just put him in like a rear naked chokehold? Be like, let me in.
I don't know. No, I feel like I'm a guest in their world.
I mean, it's your dream. I guess a good question though. Like, isn't it your dream and your dream world, or are you just entering like this global? Is it like international maritime law waters? Like no one owns it.
It's the collective unconscious. Like, so what Carl Jung would call the collective unconscious it is collective. So my dreaming is not just my dreaming. It's an actual place, and it's a place that I go every night, but I just go to one little sector. Usually so this ties into the whole dream mapping. Like the dream space is infinite, but I usually just go to this one little sector, this one little neighborhood or, one little area. That's where I frequent. You frequent over here on, this little sector. So it's
Do
not
you have like
that
noisy dream neighbors?
I mean,
You're like, turn down that
maybe.
dream music.
I can place a lot of people on sometimes, or like the dream when I'm talking to the dream, and when I have the dreaming emissary or whatever read to me, it'll talk really quiet like this, and then I'm like, it makes me so mad. So I've yelled at it. I'm like, I can't hear you. Like I'm so mean in the dream space, and I'm not normally like that, but I'm bossy. So then it'll
It sounds like
talk
you
louder.
feel very entitled in this dream realm.
I do, and I think because I
Are
know
you a
my
dream
time is
Karen?
limited.
Are you asking for managers at any point in your lucid dreams?
I just want to do it all, and I don't want delays because I don't know when the next time will be. So I just feel like my time is limited. Obviously, my energy is limited, and so
This is some Karen
sh-
energy. I just got to throw it out there. Like, I've
and that's not
saved
how I
up
am in real
all
life.
year to go on this trip to Disney World. How dare you not let me sit in this seat that I wanted? Do you know who I am? I'm like, yeah, lady, get in the ride.
No wonder why they don't like me.
Don't let this lady in for the next year. She's banned.
She's a bitch. We are not doing that anymore.
So
Yeah.
we're wrapping up here. We got way deeper into the Russian dream hacker space than I was expecting to, and I'm glad because it was super awesome. What did we leave for next time? Like what are like some of the cool highlights that we didn't even touch on that would entice someone to want to know more about these Russian dream hackers and lucid dreaming?
Dream mapping, dream labyrinths, like more lucid dreaming experiments. Yeah, I mean there's so much. There's so much. There's so much more.
So we'll do a follow-up maybe. We'll talk about dream mapping and dream neighborhoods. Sounds really cool. I want to get more into like the dream. I guess it's just sort of the same thing where you're like mapping out like a physical or like an ethereal physical space, right?
Yeah. And it's also a lucid dreaming technique, but it's also, once you start doing it, it's supposed to cause explosive dream recall where you remember every dream you've ever had.
That sounds wild. That sounds.
It does.
Have you
Isn't
ever
it?
come across the concept of like a dream world virus? Like if there's dream hackers, could they write a dream virus that goes out and like ruins dreams for people?
Ruins dreams, I don't know, but I know that they have like the same idea as Inception. In the book, they actually plant a physical virus in a person and make them sick and age faster because it's all subconsciously planted. So, and your body is your subconscious. People don't realize that. They think it's your brain, but it's your body.
Well, that's not too scary because I trust the WHO and everything that they come out with. So even if that did happen, there would be a very
A vaccine for it?
viable and very acceptable solution that we all are advocating for, not against, clearly. But
Like a drug.
I guess outside of like a virus that harms, also I guess the new trend for writing viruses is that you almost make like a bot network. So you upload a virus somewhere, and then it installs itself somewhere, and it starts mining Bitcoin or farming addresses or whatever. But then it also reaches out to any computers in its network, and it installs that same thing. So at a certain point, you basically have this botnet of like thousands of people's computers that are all just either mining Bitcoin or farming random information on sites. So I guess if there was a version of like a dream virus, it would be a way to install something into you as you're dreaming so that now when you go back into the dream world and you don't remember it or you don't have control over it, someone else is like using you in your dream state to research information or go and do tasks, almost like a zombie or like a dream slave, right? And getting you to do all this stuff, and you wake up, you don't remember any of it. So I just wonder if that's even a possibility, because if it is, that sounds like a cool line of work to be in.
If you think it could be a possibility, then it's a possibility.
Uh-oh.
It exists. It's there. So
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I got a lot of weird ideas that I hope they aren't all real possibilities.
Well, that's why that lucid dreaming halo thing, that's kind of scary. It's awesome. Like it's an awesome idea but it's also scary because it's like giving magic
shout
to
out
people
to
that
whoever
maybe shouldn't have it.
This place is. Get me a freaking affiliate code or something. Let me get my
Yeah.
whistle wet a little bit here. Throw me a bone. I'll plug you guys. Abbie's on board. She said she dropped $2,000 for this thing, no question. But I'm not going to let her. I'm not going to allow Abbie Dreammaster J to even look at this anymore unless I get an affiliate code from you guys from Prophetic AI. Give me a freaking let's get me some money here, and then I'll pump your product.
Yeah, we want.
But until then, I feel like it's dangerous and don't touch it.
Absolutely.
Once it gets the Paranoid American seal of approval, we'll start rolling these things out the door.
Oh, I forgot to wear my Paranoid American sticker. I was going to put it on like a tattoo.
Well, number 2, actually, we're going to all be getting Paranoid American tattoos pretty soon. Everyone first, and then
Yes, we
I'll
are.
go. I just want to make sure everyone gets theirs so they can pick them out, and then I'll pick whatever's left over.
Well,
So,
I'm going to practice and like post it on Instagram so you can see like
okay.
doing bodybuilder poses. Well, I'm going to figure out
That
where
would
I'm
be
going to get mine.
awesome, man. I need
I'm
to.
going to.
Are there any conspiracy theorists in the bodybuilder space, or are they just like too focused on whey protein to care?
Well, there are some smart people. So I don't know.
Well,
I
I'm not
haven't met
saying
a lot.
intelligence. I mean more of like a capacity of focus, because I just imagine a lot of the people that are just like, I can't read about what's happening on Little St. James right now. I'm analyzing my body fat percentage and my skin elasticity, and I'm doing all these other tests on myself.
Well, usually if you're really a good bodybuilder, you pay somebody else to do all the thinking part for you. You just got to execute. So you just
That's a
have
good
that. You have
point.
good discipline.
Okay.
So I don't have to do any of my own thinking. Like I just have to do what's in my plan, and then I've got time to, you know, conspire something.
So are there other
Conspire?
like truthers in the bodybuilding community? Is there like a little miniature network of anti-woke bodybuilders?
Not that I've met any, but I feel like people start asking me questions, and then I start asking questions because you can't just come out and be like, oh yeah, this was totally an inside job. You have to kind of
Oh,
see
I do. I totally do.
Oh, do you?
I'll go out and I'll just be like, let's talk about Fritz Springmeier's Illuminati mind control slave handbook. And they're like, sir, this is a Wendy's, but that doesn't stop me.
Well, I kind of go more Cheney here, and I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you this question. I annoy people really bad because they'll ask me a question, what do you think about the moon landing? I'm like, well, what do you think about NASA? What do you think about, I'll ask all these questions, and then, but
Do you
it's
think
really,
they accidentally erased over those tapes? How smart do you think they really are? What kind of operation do you think they're running where you accidentally erase over like the most monumental achievement in human history so that it can never be scrutinized again in the future?
you think that tinfoil craft made it to the moon?
I got bigger problems than that too. Just a track record of how many times they put out photos and video, and they were like, oops, we forgot to mention that this wasn't real. This was just like a practice run. Oops, we forgot to add that little byline. It happened enough times that it makes me question it.
It's so sketchy.
If only they had the tape. If only they had the tape. That's all they had to do. Don't erase the tape.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. So but that's kind of my more method. I like to test where people are on their pills. Have they had the blue pill yet, or the red pill? Have they had the red pill yet? Because if they haven't had it, then I've got to see. I got to scaffold it. You got to scaffold. That's a teaching concept, but
What happens if someone has the black pill? Do you try and dial that back? Are they a lost cause? Are they just on their own mission?
That's when I go into the whole importance thing, because I used to be that way, especially when I was
black
into
pill?
Christianity.
Like total
Yeah. Oh
nihilism?
my gosh. Yeah. But don't you feel like it's all doom and gloom? I feel like that's like the message of Christianity sometimes too, especially if you're into the whole end times theology of it all. So to me, it's like what kept me from being at that place was reality transurfing, because it just taught me that nothing's important, which sounds so dismissive, but once you let go of importance in most areas
Keep
of your
being
life,
mopey, bitches. We're going surfing.
that's what's up. Yeah. I gotta be here once. I may as well fucking live it, right? And not in a bad
on.
way, but may as well
All right,
create the life I want.
Tell people where they can find you one more time, and we'll wrap up.
You can find me on Instagram, and I'm abstract1. And you can find me on Telegram in the Project Cheney chat. And on YouTube, I'm frequent the Blue Collar Mystics. We're doing a reality transurfing podcast, and the Secret Society of Good Guys.
Oh yeah. Shout out Bootsy. Shout out Cheney. Shout out Layla, Gordy, everybody. And if you're watching this right now, imagine yourself pulling out your wallet and pulling out your credit card and entering those details into paranoidamerican.com. Here's
chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. The chosen one, yes, he is the chosen one. He's got his own comic, and now he's got his own song. Cause he's the chosen one, yes, he is the chosen one. Go buy a copy at chosenone.com. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com.